Here at the 2012 CK-FMS in St. Paul, Minnesota, Gray Cook speaks with Jeff O'Connor on the appropriate technique for the kettlebell swing.
Jeff, this morning you summarized the transition from fair, good, adequate deadlifting mechanics into, all right, now we're going to swing. And I think it's a cliche, almost a tagline. We say, you know, your deadlift becomes your swing. And philosophically, theoretically, it forms a foundation, but technically, I think you hit on some pearls that I think people using the kettlebell swing need to hear, because you use the kettlebell swing not to develop kettlebell athletes, you use the kettlebell swing to develop athletes. And I think it's unbelievably important, because we've always appreciated those Olympic lifts because they are such a power exertion. We find that exact same thing with a very, very safe way to do the kettlebell swing. And I wish I had the camera running, and I'm going to ask you to repeat brilliance, because you had the group, the sun was shining and everything like that. And for all of you who don't know Jeff, he's from Oklahoma. He's a kettlebell philosopher, and he basically keeps me and Brett Jones in line at CK-FMS, and is a significant part of kettlebells from the ground up too, and a lot of good feedback from almost every project we've done, including Dynami, where you're going to find a lot of this information on the swing sort of exposed. He was behind that, and he basically helped, or actually wrote that manual, I think. So thanks, Coach. Take it away.
Well, we were just discussing transitioning from a deadlift to a swing, and while they may look a lot alike position-wise, movement-wise, structurally, they are similar. And I guess if you look at it, a swing is a dynamic deadlift, but it's not. A deadlift is basically all feed-forward tension. You're telling your muscles what to do. You're pre-juicing them. But what happens with the swing, the way Pavel taught us, or at least in my case tried to teach me to do a swing, was a very athletic transition between tension and relaxation.
Okay.
And to truly swing and make it ballistic, you have to give it some propulsion, and then it has to fly on its own without propulsion anymore. And you can't keep that engine going all the way, the whole time, that it's not truly ballistic. And what happens then is, if we're trying to transition between the phases of the swing and we're pushing the whole time, we don't get that athleticism. What we get is a fast deadlift. And I don't want my players under tension all the time. They don't play very well.
Right.
They're moving like Frankenstein. So the key to that relaxation is having the requisite dynamic motor control to relax. And as you always talk about, tap the brakes, make a small adjustment with the steering wheel so that you can keep moving fast, making the adjustments necessary without full throttle.
Yep.
And emergency brake.
And you told him this morning, and I thought it was brilliant, you know, we think quickness is contracting and reacting quick. It's also releasing your tension quickly. So, and we know those hardest punches come from sort of a relaxed but well-aligned platform. And so, you know, I knew it, but you made me know it better this morning just by the way you were talking about it, and he does. It's an object lesson in quick acquisition, followed by quick relaxation, followed by even more feedback. And the deeper you get into a session of swings, the more you're capitalizing on the movement that preceded it.
And that's it. And Pavel's explained the difference between tension and relaxation better than I ever could, or probably anybody will. And he was trying to share that with me. But Pavel was playing chess. I was gnawing on the checkerboard. I didn't really understand this process. It's been, you know, a 10 or 12 year journey, and I'm still nowhere close to it. But I think the biggest mistake people make is they get set up in a deadlift and in their deadlift position, and they think the swing is the exact same thing. They're all tense all the time because we're so enamored of effort, and we get so excited about how hard we're working. Mm-hmm. When the reality is how well do we perform? And tension all the time doesn't help us perform better. So while we want all that tension for a big deadlift, everything changes when we go to swing, because a swing requires us to relax. and it requires those little taps on the brake, and it requires that motor control, that stability that you're always talking about, or we never get all the neurological benefits of the swing. So what I'm looking for first and foremost in a swing is a relaxed, smooth, athletic swing with great in positions and great transitions between them. A lot of people make the mistake of trying to go too hard, too fast, too heavy, and they miss that move well portion.
No, that's good. So I'm going to ask you, grab a kettlebell, set up the swing, and I think one of the points we made was that if the deadlift does anything, it gets you into some of the positions that you're going to have to reproduce. But go ahead, grab the kettlebell, set us up for a swing, at least talk us through your startup, give us at least a few good examples to gnaw on, and then we'll let you catch your breath and we're going to cap that thing. But we've got a good angle here to watch you swing. And just talk us through setting up and what you're getting ready to do for us.
Well, the swing is set up off of the deadlift. You do have to have good deadlift mechanics or your swing isn't going to be good. It's just that you might need some other things that we're talking about this weekend at CK-FMS.
Okay, I'm going to give you some safe space here.
So from a deadlift, one of the drills we talk about a lot is a neutral spine, and we like to use the stick from the FMS kit to set up and teach people to actually move and hinge from the hips. So a lot of people will deadlift with a feed forward tension, and they will have a neutral or very close to neutral spine, and this may be where they're actually the strongest when they're feeding that tension forward, and that's okay. Others may have a little bit more extension, eye positions may change, all that's good. And the same sort of thing can happen in the swing, but there's a whole different dynamic that happens when you're moving fast and moving well. There's a reflexive stabilization that ties the body together in different ways. So generally speaking, on a swing, for some people, neutral spine might be a place to start or a corrective. Generally, I want to see as somebody drops into that universal athletic ready position, they're ready to make a play. Now, that doesn't mean we hyperextend, because that turns us into something that is, well, not very athletic and could be very dangerous, and it's certainly not effective. So anyway, everything starts and ends with the deadlift mechanics. We want to be stable here. We want to move from here. Knees and ankles just come along for the ride. Stable scapula. Boom. And from the outside, swing looks basically the same. Inside, things move a little different. What I want to see is relaxed and smooth at first. If done properly, the bell would continue to float if you'd let it. However, swings start getting too high, people tend to disconnect their midsection, they open up their abs and put their back into a bad position.
I see swings on YouTube going this high, and I wonder what's happening. It was obvious to see you finish with your hips there. It was obvious to see that bell float. But what I also noticed is before the bell pulled you into the position, you basically got there, and I think that's an important thing.
Well, it's not just hip extension; it's hip flexion.
Right.
And that's what we're doing that makes us human.
Awesome. And I think there is so much athleticism inherent in a kettlebell swing in field and court sports. Whether we're trying to jump vertically, whether we're trying to cut laterally, we don't have to make that a 3D exercise. We don't have to swing that kettlebell out of plane. I've seen kettlebells swinging across the body like a pendulum and stuff like that. That is so good, and I know you build athletes and you get them young, but they come back and visit you too when they're a little bit old and beat up and somehow successful. And I think, between what you have given us with the get-up and with what you're talking about with a swing, from what you told me, that's what I delivered to some of the teams I've worked with. I'm like, in the get-up, in the swing is much of what you need. There's much other stuff in the kettlebell world, but this is fundamental. It's a platform, and many athletic movements can grow off that. So attending to this detail basically creates a very fertile environment for multi-directional, multi-planar, sport-specific moves to come off of. But what I find is people rush this, or they try to make it sport-specific, and they don't understand why we pour a solid foundation before we build a house.
You got to add and subtract before you do calculus. It's not that there's never a place for moving with a belt, because there is. But if you can't deadlift, you don't swing. And if you don't have the requisite dynamic motor control, if your screen doesn't support that you're ready to, you don't swing. But I would like to add one final thing. The difference is what makes it truly a hard style swing. And this is what took me, well, till after I got a little less broken with the FMS. and that was, from a previous life. I earned all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I never had that ability to relax. But the performance side of the swing, and what Pavel has been trying to teach us for all these years, is once you have that relaxation and that tap on the brakes, then that final little bit of extra, that punch, that ready for impact, and that's the difference in Pavel's swing and what, what Brett Jones refers to as ugly style.
Okay. I'm glad he took my name out of that definition. Here's the deal. If you want to tap into this coach's head for some fundamental lifts that cross the gamut between fitness and athletics, look what he did with the Dynamic project, especially in the manual. If you actually want to see his pretty face training and coaching, look at what he contributed to in kettlebells from the ground up too.
If you're looking for more on the kettlebell swing, Kettlebells from the Center of Dynamic is an FMS essential. You can pick up this product through our online store at functionalmovement.com. If you have topics you'd like to see us address in future episodes of FMS Unplugged, please email your ideas to info@functionalmovement.com.